to my ninth grade year, and that's when you see other people like getting mad with each other. But the world today is to like compete, and so everyone has to compete on everything. There's no room. Oh, I'm going to give you a job here on the side, or I'm just going to give you a high position. You have to compete for that. So all these students right now are competing and trying to get those high positions and those good grades and get into these good schools. So that's what I think.
And I think it's because it's been a building block to whatever like the conflict that's been happening with the whole racial thing. And I think that's where people get it from. That's where the parents get it from. Yeah, they're not educated, but I feel like it's because it's an excuse.
May I ask you a question?
Sure.
Why can't you educate the parents that there's no difference
Right.
about any problem that you may have? We are supposed to be Americans. Most of us came here to become white on.
So you're asking me why I don't educate them?
Any child.
Any child.
You can educate your parents just like your parents educate you about any problem. Am I right? Or am I wrong?
You're right.
Yeah.
Okay, and here in Hamtramck, it's my understanding, and I am a student, it's only over 38 different nationalities. You have to learn to work together. I've been in Hamtramck since 1922, and I've been on the same street since 1922. So I am aware of everything, and I wasn't a person that would go home by. I did go out and meet to try and see what's going on. But it's up to you. It's just like if I come down the street and I said good morning to you, and you don't say good morning, does that mean the next time I come down the street, I see you, don't say good morning? Sometimes you have to be friendly too.
Right, I understand. Sometimes kids just want to be ignorant about the situation or whatever the situation is. And I think sometimes you have to educate yourself, and like you said, sometimes you have to be friendly. And some kids don't want to do that.
You shouldn't say you don't have to be friendly.
Oh, I know.
You should be friendly. I don't mean buddy, but
Yeah, no, I know.
and that's no way of saying good morning or good evening or how are you or nothing wrong.
But see, because I educated myself, I'm aware.
Yeah, next question's back here.
Did I answer your question? I mean, we can talk further.
Yeah, we can continue.
Yeah.
I have kind of an idea, not an idea, but if we comprehend that the parents already are uneducated and they're not grasping this racial conflict that might be happening with different races and things in school, is it not up to the school and the students then to kind of get a sensitivity concept going where they're aware that there's home problems instead of just blaming the parents?
No, definitely.
And because it's already a done deal. If people are already not educated about being racially sensitive, then they're not. And then you have to think of ideas of how to do that, how to help that happen. Because otherwise, nobody's going to be helping anybody. And also, I wondered, is there ever issues with certain teachers that may not support a sensitive position on race and maybe even help it be the opposite, kind of instigate problems? I don't know, but I'm asking.
Well, for me, if I haven't had a teacher who was very racial discriminated upon me, but because all Hamtramcks, just put it like this, all students have to get along with everyone. But if there's a problem when the teacher is saying that, hey little black boy, hey little every girl, come up here and do this problem on the board, that's a problem. But all students have to work with everyone no matter what, because they have to grow up. There's no sugarcoating, no nothing. You have to grow up and face the world and face the public in order for you to compete. So teachers at Hamtramck Public Schools, period, are not racially, they do not racially discriminate other kids.
I've never seen it, and I'm a junior, but I've seen kids do it, and they think it's funny, but we don't think it's funny, but students who kind of do care about the whole racial issue. And I do understand what you're saying. How can we get the parents and most importantly the kids to understand that, you know, and to break the whole barrier of the racial issue? You're right. How do we?
Yeah, I absolutely agree with what you said and what she said. It's up to us. We're the youth. Like if it's like it's up to our generation to make the change. Like the last generation, we can't do anything about it. If they're not helping their kids, telling their kids what to do, then oh well. It's up to us, and like that's why I said we should like try really hard to get our generation educated about this stuff and the violence that happens from racial problems.
Because like what he said, like in the real world, like I've been put into scenarios and Lopez has, and it doesn't matter. I mean, once you're put in the work field, no one cares if you're Arabic or if you're African American. You know, it's you can get the job done. So I think we should kind of put that point across that it shouldn't matter.
Okay, we're right on schedule here. We're going to conclude this section with our friend Tisha Franklin, who's the treasurer of the Hamtramck NAACP, and she's also the head of the youth council that's being formed here in Hamtramck. So she gets you get the last word, Tisha.
Thank you. Welcome to our forum today. You have 3 outstanding students here. These are not the students that are in the office. These are not the students who are racially discriminatory. These are the leaders that we have in our public schools, and they are wonderful. I wish we had a panel of those who are in the office all the time, who are racially discriminate against people. I want to just piggyback on a couple things that these young people have said, and one is parents. I think, or my experience in Hamtramck, I'm a Hamtramck public school teacher as well. I work at Dickinson West. I'm a 5th grade teacher there. I'm from Hamtramck, born and raised, went to St. Florian, which is now Frontier. And I've been here all of my life, and I've seen racial discrimination. This is a place where every and anybody can come to live. And we love that about Hamtramck. But there are some deep-rooted racism in some of the older generation that still lives here and is carrying through with our youngsters. So that's one thing. So I think we have 2 different kind of populations. We have an older population who still has some of that deep-rooted racism. They've experienced racism from people right here in the community. And so they speak out in their homes. They say things that their kids over here, that their grandchildren over here. And so I think that comes into play. And then we do have that one population in between the first generation parents of our young kids who are informed. They're trying to survive right now. It's a bad economy right now. They're just trying to survive. Some of them aren't raising their children as they could be. So I think that's the issue. Far as my issue and my other issue is, and I wanted to ask you all this, if you see this, because this is what I see sometimes. I see that Muslim women are unable to date. And so Muslim men find dating in other women. They will go to other races to date outside their races. Maybe they'll date blacks, maybe they'll date white girls, where they could have relationships with them, where they can't have those relationships with Muslims. And perhaps does that start some animosity between boys of different cultures and different races?
Definitely.
Because I find that happening all the time, and I find that Muslim boys drive nice cars, wear nice clothes, and so they have things that other kids don't have, and that's going back to what Lopez said. They have things that other kids don't have, and so it starts a fight. It starts there's animosity, there's arguments there because you have what I want what you have, and arguments are started there. So if we get to someone, I don't know if I'm hitting the hammer on the nail or not, but we as a community have to come together and we all have to be unified. We have to show our children what we want it to look like, what it should feel like, what the environment should be like. And so I am starting a youth council hoping that you will get your grandkids and your children involved because they are the future of our generation and we have to teach them to live in a global society. They're going to have to work with multiracial people. That's how we all are going to advance. That's how we all are going to do well, when we all work together.
Thank you, Ms. Franklin. She's one of our teachers in Hamtramck, who we're very fortunate to have with us.
What's the age range that you're looking for the council?
We're looking for kids from 8 and to 20.
Okay, thank you.
However, she'll explain there's 3 different groupings in the NAACP. There's one under 14, and then 14 to 20, and then there's one above that. There's 3 different age groups. There's a high school group. But she'll explain it all. If you could participate or you have young people who you think should be part of this, please see Ms. Franklin. She's a teacher over at Kosciuszko School now in the east. It's called West Dickinson. They're inside Kosciuszko building. So we're going to conclude this section right now, and we thank everybody who spoke. This has started out very well, and we didn't introduce you as you spoke, but because we wanted just to keep the flow going. But this was a great discussion, and we want to thank you, students, so much for joining us. Simone, hang on, I'm going to say your name correctly. Simone El-Hagri. Thank you for joining us. Let's give her a nice round of applause. Lopez Davis and Saeed Rahman, the 3 students. Thank you. That was a great start to our discussion, and obviously it's just the start. And we have a lot more to talk about that issue. So we thank you, young students, who, as Ms. Franklin said, these are some of our exceptional students, and we thank you for participating in this presentation. So now we're going to turn to our very special adult guests, and I'll introduce you to them one at a time as they take their seats here. First we have from the Muslim Political Action Committee, we have he's known also as Super Lawyer, I guess is his name. Okay, Super Lawyer. But he's also with the NAACP in Detroit. He's on the Legal Aid, Board of Legal Aid. He's Pakistani, and we're very fortunate to have him join us. Everybody I talk to who says Mudassir Tawakkol is going to be our guest, they say, oh boy, you got the good guy. So here he is. Let's give him a nice welcome. And from the Yemeni American National Association of Yemeni Arab Americans, we have the president of NAYA, and we're very fortunate to have with us Abdul Hakim Al-Sadat. Thank you. And from also another super lawyer, we know about you too. You're also a super lawyer, and he's from the Detroit NAACP, and we're very fortunate to have with us to represent the NAACP, Butch Hollowell, ladies and gentlemen, Butch Hollowell. So we're going to get the microphone set up so that you can get into them real good first. Okay, now we have an hour here. We're going to continue on in the same manner. If the audience has anything to interject, feel free to raise your hand, and I'll put you on the queue here, and we'll give you a chance to talk to our special guests here. We just got 2 or 3 basic questions we're going to ask them. Essentially, the first one, we want them to respond to the issue we just talked about, first of all. And then before that, I'm going to ask each of them to describe their organizations they belong to and the kind of work they do and related to this issue. And then the final question, of course, has to do with anti-Islam and anti-Muslim sentiment in America and how the NAACP can address these concerns. We have to work in the Arab community and in the Muslim community to make sure everyone gets equal treatment in our society. African Americans certainly know about this through history, and there's got a way that we can all work together to make it safe and secure and happy for everybody in the society. So let's start off first of all with Mudassir Tawakkol. We'd like to ask you, please just briefly describe the organizations you belong to relevant to the issue we're doing here and kind of work that you do.
Good evening, everyone. Let me just start off by saying it's an honor and pleasure being here. If I mumble a little, I am fasting and everything, so it's just trying to get acclimated coming from Ramadan, not fasting, and then trying to fast one again today. With that said, good evening. Can we get a good evening? Good evening. All right, I'm in Hamtramck now. If I was in Detroit, it'd be much louder. Good evening. Good evening. All right. With that said, I consider myself what I say a rare breed in the sense that my upbringing, being raised, I was born in Pakistan, but coming here at the age of 3 and being raised in Ann Arbor, Ypsilanti area, which, like Hamtramck, is very diverse and everything. But unlike many immigrants that come to this country, many of us come from countries that came out of the shackles of colonialism. Many of us came out of shackles. We are fighting what we'd say the men, most likely Europeans ourselves. So many of us come to this country in order to identify with the status quo. So many of us, would like to identify with what we are, white people. So many of us forget to realize that we're minorities ourselves, that we are people of color ourselves. Mr. Myers made a comment about how Arabs are considered white in this country. So the definition of white under the US Census is to be from Middle East, North Africa, and European countries, which makes no sense. So you can be from Sudan and be considered white for the simple fact you speak Arabic and you're from that's considered the Middle East. But to give you a history of why that occurred and background and leading up to where I am today, in 1972, when the census definitions came up regarding races and everything, you had Asian, white, Hispanic, Latin America. Initially, the Arab community was identified as Asian, as a subcategory Asian. However, the Arab League or the Arab countries at the time lobbied the U.S. government because they did not want to be identified with a minority. They themselves wanted to be considered a part of a majority for economic reasons. So many of them lobbied and the definition was changed for white to be included as white. Sad to say, with the many Arabs and Muslims in this country, many of us thought we were white until September 11, 2011. If you would ask the Arab or Muslim, what are you September, especially Arabs and Pakistanis too, what you were on September 10, 2001, they would say something else compared to what they say something now, which has made it difficult in the legal realm because when you bring racial discrimination cases, you can't argue that this individual is racist, and legally he's white and you're white. You have to take it to a whole nother level of arguing at ethnic intimidation. You're being discriminated based upon ethnicity rather than race, because historically as race you're considered white. I'm saying that to say, so growing up in America, I knew where my place was as a person of color, as a rights. And from day one, even though my family was Muslim, our family was not religious, so I came out to the Nation of Islam experience and was able to come back to traditional Orthodox Islam. With that said, I was able to identify that with African Americans, which are the largest minority in the United States, if that minority, which has been here for 400 and some years, doesn't have rights, how can any other minority that just comes here, have rights? Do you understand what I'm saying?
Yes.
Plain and simple. So with that concept, we have to learn that you have to work together. And I'll ask a question, especially if you're an immigrant Muslim, how many people came here after 1965? Do you know how we got visas to come here? Before 1965, they had what they call the National Origins Act. The National Origins Act said that there was limitations. There was quotas on immigrants coming from Middle East, Asia, Latin America. All non-white countries had a quota, whereas white countries, European countries, you could come here freely. On 1965, on the backs of the Civil Rights Bill, which was sponsored by groups like NAACP, Dr. King, and many other organizations for the rights of freedom, that bill was repealed. So you had an influx of immigration. So many of us who came here on the backs and the rights of the civil rights organizations. And with that dedication, I started getting involved with many organizations. And I see, and we'll discuss this, I don't want to take up the entire time, that many of us have this understanding that NAACP is an African American organization. No, it's not. At the time that NAACP was founded, it was founded by whites, Jews, and African Americans. And nowhere in the objectives of the NAACP is the word African Americans or colored identified. It was an organization to help the largest minority at the time, which was African Americans. However, the struggle of the organization still exists today. And I'm going to end with this, saying that the mission statement of the NAACP is simple, and it'll take away all the misconception that this organization is an African American only organization. NAACP, the mission of NAACP is to ensure political, educational, social, and economic equality of rights of all persons, to eliminate racial hatred and racial discrimination. With that, that's why I'm part of the NAACP.
Thank you, and thank you very much, Mudassi Tawaka. We're going to ask Abdul Hakim Al-Sadar now to speak.
Yes, sir. Assalamu alaikum, and good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Just want to tell you that the brother is fasting and he didn't explain why. Today is the Eid, the smaller day of the greater day tomorrow. which is Eid al-Adha. It's the Hajj Eid. So most Muslims do fast all these 10 days, or some of them. My name is Abdul Hakim Muhammad Asara. I'm the president of NAACP. I am professionally a clinical social worker. I've been in this community for the last 25 years. And I have to tell you with great honesty that I thank the NAACP for organizing this forum, because this is what we have been asking the officials of Hamtramck for the last 20 years. 20 years ago, I spoke with Tom in his school. I personally, and he is sitting right there. Good evening, sir, how are you?
Fine.
And we were talking about the same issues we're talking about today. I have to report to all of you, ladies and gentlemen, and to tell you that we are giving a lip service to these issues, and none of us is really doing any real work. And if we sit here and say that we do, then I have to tell you that I am the only guilty one who does it. We are not giving this a serious thought. And nothing better than what our students and youth have said when they started this. They all said it started at home. The issues, kids don't discriminate against each other. None of us did. Come on, we are all human. Black, white, green, white. We don't discriminate. We didn't know how to discriminate. We play together. Adults do discriminate. All of us discriminate. The Arab, and I'm only gonna speak of the Arabic communities because I'm one. Though all the issues are absolutely similar. Discrimination, ladies and gentlemen, does not differentiate between what my friend here wanted to say. He's a Pakistani, I am a Yemeni, this is Iraqis. Most of you don't even care for the difference, nor do most of you know the difference. It is how we look. Let's face it, okay? They didn't know a difference between a Pakistani and Indian. We didn't know the difference between a Chinese and none. We don't. Because discrimination has only one face, and it is hatred, and it is how we, the adults, teach our kids to treat other people and the kids. What have we done in the Yemeni community? Because we are the new kids in the block. Let's face it. What you, ladies and gentlemen of the African American community, have suffered, we are right now just taking after you. Simple. The unknown, what is people are afraid of? They're afraid of Simone. She wears a hijab. The counselor there asked the right question. Thank you for asking that question. Well, what is the problem with dating? People don't know what the Muslims do, date or don't date. Most parents don't know how to explain themselves to the neighbor, so we have a problem. Whose responsibility then? It is the responsibility of the school and the city officials to bring these issues into the forefront and to discuss them and to bring people with expertise to explain to the students, to the parents, and to the people. That's whose responsibility. We cannot let and blame our students and say, why are they fighting? I think this is a redundant question, should not even be asked. Because the teachers, the schools, and I apologize in advance, because I'm going to be straightforward. I don't mean to offend anybody. But I've been in this for too long not to give a lip service to anybody. Why isn't the Hamtramck schools hosting programs like this? Why? What do they lack in? Money or what is the problem? If it is a problem, then the best thing to solve the problem is to define it, right? So when you define the problem, you admit to the problem, then the third step is to find solutions. I am sorry to say schools in Hamtramck have not done enough into this area. And there is no way around it. But to say that if you think you have a problem, then solve it. Call me, I'm the parents. Let us take responsibilities. Let us all work together. The police force, ladies and gentlemen, has a responsibility to the society, isn't it? Do you know, all of you that live in Hamtramck, how many times have we asked the police department to be more involved with the community and with the issues of the communities, and how many times have we asked the police department to educate themselves about the newcomers, whether it be Bengalis or Yemenis or Arabs? Well, how many of these programs have been installed? And I swear to God, I was in the police department 20 years ago, when there was a small shooting between students. Do you know what happened when two kids fight in the school? What do the teacher do? The teacher and the counselors. I heard it myself, and I need somebody from the school to stand up and tell me this is not what's happening. If two kids are fighting, these two kids are not identified by themselves, by their names. Abdul and John are fighting. No. It's this Yemeni kid is fighting with the black kid. When the teacher said that, how do you expect the kids not to take it that way? What are we going to do? If the teacher said it's Abdul fighting with John, maybe this is what happened. Then the police comes. They call the police sometimes, which they have. And we have been in the community, whether it's the mosque or our organization or other organizations, have been involved, and then the parents get involved, and this is how the issues are. And I said before I started, I said I'm going to be straightforward in this, because this is, ladies and gentlemen, is a very important issue, and it is a shame in all of us, in this room and outside this room, if we do not address it, and address it responsibly, and address it with opening and truth to it. What happened? It's a Yemeni kid fighting, and then it's a black kid, and then maybe it's a white kid, and then it goes out, and everybody goes, like the students address it, and they get it together, and it becomes a community issue, while it's not a community issue. It's two kids fighting about something. This is where the issue is. So we parents take full responsibility. School takes a full responsibility, and the authorities take a very full responsibility. The city council, the city, they have to somehow come up with certain programs to get the community involved, and I truly cannot thank the NAACP for this opportunity. I think this is a great start, and I honestly think that is what this community needs. And with that, I'm just gonna try to summarize that we've been involved with the schools, trying various organizations. The problem is there is not a continuation, because like Samoon said, every year it's the same fighting. In fact, sometimes it's the same kids. And how funny is that? And it's like we're anticipating there's going to be fighting, and yet we don't anticipate how we're going to deal with it. We anticipate the fighting, and we anticipate the name calling, but we don't anticipate that, you know what, when you plan for your school, part of what you're going to do is, okay, here is what we're going to do. We're going to call a few organizations. We're going to call a few mosque leaders. We're going to call a few church leaders, a few communities during the year, and we're going to have a small talk with the kids, and then we're going to see, well, maybe there is no money. Well, get the community to, maybe the community will help, but initiate the step, make the step forward. And then comes to the teacher. We have great respect for teachers, but you know what? Teachers need to know about other kids, and make it a must. Make it a must. If a teacher is going to come to a school when there is 90% international kids, doesn't matter who they are, the first thing I will ask of the teacher is, you know what, you need to go educate yourself. Educate yourself about how they dress. Educate yourself about their religious holidays. Educate yourself. I could tell you regrettably, I swear to God, regrettably, that some teachers don't even know what most of the most visible holidays for Muslims even are, other than the lip service. Oh, today it is. Oh, yeah, it is. What is it? They don't know. What do the kids need? How we, the school, could provide special programs